Senate Democrats are threatening to remove the filibuster that would allow them to pass legislation without a single Republican vote. And President Biden says he supports changing it. President Biden told migrants from Central America not to come to the United States and cross over the border illegally. This comes as his administration continues to deny there is a crisis at the border. And the House is set to vote on two bills Thursday that would provide a citizenship path for illegal immigrants and legal status for immigrant farm workers. Tune into Deep Dive as we explore these topics and more. Hello and welcome. This is Deep Dive and I'm Tiffany Meier. Things at the border are escalating, but first, some updates. Senate Democrats are threatening to remove the filibuster that would allow them to pass legislation without a single Republican vote. And President Biden says he supports changing it. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer says Democrats are determined to pass their agenda, saying America needs a, quote, big, bold change.
As for the issue, we Democrats, all of us, believe we need big, bold change.
Schumer says he wants to work with Republicans. He says they need to support, quote, the kinds of change that America needs. If not, he is threatening to get rid of the filibuster. The filibuster rule gives the minority party ability to block legislation. It takes a supermajority threshold, or 60 votes, to override. Without it, Democrats can't pass any legislation without a single Republican vote. Minority Leader Mitch McConnell calls the filibuster the essence of the Senate. He says the Senate is the only legislative body that gives the minority any say on legislation. He says the Democrats' plans could backfire on them if Republicans regain power. Moderate Democrats in the Senate may be the only safeguard for the filibuster. Senators Joe Manchin and Kristen Sinema say they support keeping the filibuster. Manchin says he's been in the minority, so he understands the importance of the minority having a vote. McConnell warned if the Democrats remove the filibuster, the Senate would almost stop functioning, implying that Republicans would be forced to grind the Senate to a halt as a last resort to push back against the Democrats' total control. President Biden, meanwhile, wants it changed to the talking filibuster. Biden told ABC News' George Stephanopoulos, "I don't think that you have to eliminate the filibuster," adding, "You have to do what it used to be when I first got to the Senate back in the old days. You had to stand up and command the floor. You had to keep talking. So you've got to work for the filibuster." A talking filibuster is kind of a middle ground, where at least one senator in the minority would have to stand on the Senate floor and keep talking in order to maintain the filibuster, hence the name. This comes amid a lot of finger-pointing. Schumer accuses the Republicans of not working with the Democrats, and Republican lawmakers say the same thing, noting the passing of Biden's $1.9 trillion relief package without a single Republican vote. Now, let's turn to the southern border. President Biden is urging migrants from Central America not to come to the U.S. DHS Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas said this year the U.S. is on pace to encounter more illegal immigrants crossing the border than any year in the past 2 decades. In light of this, Biden told Central American migrants in an interview with ABC News on Tuesday that migrants should remain in their town, city, or community instead of trekking to the U.S. and crossing the border illegally. The president's comment comes amid a surge of illegal crossings. According to the head of Homeland Security, Alejandro Mayorkas, the U.S. is on pace to encounter the most migrants attempting to illegally cross the border in 2 decades. Mayorkas acknowledged on Tuesday that the number of migrants illegally entering the U.S. has spiked during President Joe Biden's first 2 months in office. But he also defended the Biden administration's response to the situation at the border, which many have described as a growing crisis. But despite the growing influx, both the White House and Mayorkas have avoided using the term crisis. Mayorkas says the situation at the southwest border is difficult. He says they are focusing on the path forward, but did not list any changes to immigration policy. There's also been a surge in unaccompanied minors crossing over. CBS Evening News reported late Tuesday that more than 13,000 young migrants are being held in U.S. custody for an average of 120 hours. Legal requirements set the limit at 72 hours. The Biden administration acknowledged it is a big problem, saying that it's currently assessing whether to add additional facilities for unaccompanied minors. During a daily White House briefing on March 15th, Press Secretary Jen Psaki said the Biden administration believes it has a handle on the border situation. And House Speaker Nancy Pelosi admitted there is a humanitarian challenge at the border, but ruled out calling it a full-fledged crisis. Senate Judiciary Chairman Dick Durbin became the first prominent Democrat to label it a crisis. He said on CNN, "It is a crisis. Oh, it's a crisis." And one of the first actions Biden took when entering office was to terminate the national emergency at the southern border, first declared by Trump in 2019. Biden says no more American taxpayer dollars are to be diverted to construct a border wall. So is there an emergency? Customs and Border Protection Agency confirmed to Congress on Tuesday that 4 people arrested at the southern border match names on the FBI's terrorist screening database. According to Axios, 3 were from Yemen and 1 was from Serbia. In the first week of March, CBP arrested a total of 22 wanted fugitives at various entry points along the U.S.-Mexico border in Texas. Among them was a person who was wanted for injury to a child, and another person was wanted for assault on a family member. All of those arrested were turned over to local authorities to face charges. According to the federal law enforcement agency, they were wanted for various crimes, including sexual assault of a child, burglary, possession of a controlled substance, aggravated assault on a family house member, and larceny. And the next day, 4 people were arrested, 1 who was wanted for injury to a child or disabled person and assault. The arrests all happened at the Presidio port of entry in Texas. The 3 others arrested were wanted for driving while intoxicated, violation of a court order, and possession of a controlled substance. And in early February, Customs and Border Protection says agents arrested a group of 11 Iranians who illegally entered the U.S. Agents saw the group on a bridge in the Yuma sector of Arizona. According to a news release from the agency, agents saw the group near San Luis, Arizona on a bridge. Border Patrol agents then determined the group had illegally crossed the international border into the U.S. The group of 5 females and 6 males was arrested and taken to Yuma Station for processing. They were all from Iran. The agency says Yuma sector agents regularly encounter people from all over the world, and that Yuma sector agents have led the nation in catching illegal border crossers from Iran. And as President Biden has undone over 12 immigration policies that President Trump had put in place to curb illegal immigration, Trump criticized Biden on Fox News Tuesday night, saying, quote, "My policies were working better than they've ever seen on the southern border. The wall is almost complete. They could have it finished in a month, and it would be just magnificent. They should finish it, but they're destroying our country. People are coming in by the hundreds of thousands." Trump's comments come as Biden faces increasing pressure to respond to a flood of illegal immigrants pouring across the border, and while thousands of unaccompanied minors are detained in shelters and overflow facilities. Republicans say Biden's moves to rescind Trump-era immigration policies essentially served as a welcome mat for illegal immigrants. But Mayorkas, as head of Homeland Security, is instead blaming the Trump administration for the situation at the border. Mayorkas says, "Our goal is a safe, legal, and orderly immigration system that is based on our bedrock priorities to keep our borders secure, address the plight of children as the law requires, and enable families to be together." He noted that he himself was brought to the U.S. as an infant by his parents, who believed in the hope of America. He said many more families arriving have that same hope. But a number of politicians, including Democrat Representative Vicente Gonzalez, are warning of the dangers the immigrants face making the journey, including sexual assault and extortion by cartels, which are only becoming more empowered by and even fanning the influx. According to CBP data, the number of illegal crossings at the southern border has been on the rise since October of 2020. The number of arrests from October 2020 to January 2021 was almost 300,000. That represents a nearly 80% increase from the same period last year. And in February, the CBP arrested over 100,000 who crossed the southern border illegally. That number is almost triple the arrests from the same time last year, when CBP caught almost 37,000 people. Many of those crossing now are unaccompanied minors. And President Joe Biden says he has no plans to visit the southern border. Reporters asked him on Tuesday whether he has plans to visit the border. He said not at the moment. And the House is set to vote on 2 bills on Thursday or tomorrow. The 2 immigration bills would provide a citizenship path for illegal immigrants and legal status for immigrant farm workers. Neither bill made much leeway in the Senate when it had a Republican majority. With Democrats now having a narrow control, they're hoping to gain some Republican support. The American Dream and Promise Act, or Dreamers, would offer a pathway to citizenship to those who enter the country illegally as children and are currently living in the U.S. According to the Migration Policy Institute, if the bill passes, an estimated 4.4 million illegal immigrants could become eligible for permanent residence. 7 Republicans joined 230 Democrats in the House in voting for the bill in 2019. The second bill, known as the Farm Workforce Modernization Act, would provide illegal immigrant agricultural workers a path to legal status and make the H-2A guest worker program more flexible for employers. It passed the House in 2019 with the support of 34 Republicans. The 2 bills are part of a bigger immigration reform bill known as the U.S. Citizenship Act of 2021. Democrats formally introduced last month in both the House and the Senate with the support of President Joe Biden. This bill would provide an 8-year pathway to U.S. citizenship for an estimated 11 million illegal immigrants in the country. Its lead sponsors are Senator Bob Menendez and Representative Linda Sanchez. The bill does not offer any enhanced border security, which past immigration negotiations have used as a way to win Republican votes. The bill would need the support of at least 10 Republicans in the Senate to pass. But what do you think? Let me know below. Thanks for tuning in to Deep Dive. I'm Tiffany Meier, and see you soon.